The morning begins the same way it always does. Slowly, very slowly. There is no sudden sound, no loud moment, just cold air, quiet land, and time moving at its own lazy pace. Far north, near a calm fjord, a small Viking village is still half asleep. The sky is pale and soft, like it has not fully decided to wake up yet. The light is gentle, not bright, not dramatic, just enough to show shapes, roofs, snow, smoke that barely moves. The longhouses sit quietly in a loose line. Their wooden walls are dark from age and weather. The roofs are covered with frost, thick and white, like the village forgot to shake itself awake. Nothing shines. Nothing rushes. This is not the kind of morning that changes history. It is the kind of morning that barely changes anything at all. The wind moves slowly between the houses. Not strong. Not angry. Just cold enough to remind everyone where they live. It slides over the frozen ground, touches the wooden doors, and keeps going. The fjord nearby answers with a soft sound, water brushing against stone, not waves. Just a gentle movement like breathing somewhere. An animal makes a quiet noise. Maybe a goat, maybe a tired cow. Even they sound half asleep. This is a normal morning. Very normal. Almost boring. Inside one of the longhouses, our Viking man is still lying down. He is not famous. No songs will be made about him. No one will carve his name into stone. He is just a man who woke up in this place many winters ago and never left. He lies under thick wool blankets. They smell like smoke and old wood. He does not move yet. There is no reason to hurry. The cold outside is not going anywhere. He opens one eye, then closes it again. That is enough effort for now. The fire in the center of the longhouse has almost burned out. A few red embers glow quietly, doing their job without asking for attention. Smoke hangs lightly in the air, finding its slow way out through the roof opening. The man finally sits up. Slowly. His joints complain a little, but not loudly. Just enough to be noticed. He listens to them, nods once, and accepts it. This is how mornings work now. He is an ordinary Viking man, not a warrior, not a raider, not interested in adventure. He has hands shaped by work, not weapons. His face is calm, shaped by weather and time. His thoughts are simple this morning, mostly about warmth and food. In that order, he pulls on his clothes. Thick wool, simple leather, nothing fancy, no armor, no symbols, just things that work. He ties them the same way he always does, without thinking. His hands know the routine better than his mind. Outside, the village stays quiet. A door opens somewhere slowly with a soft wooden sound. Another person is awake now. No greeting is shouted. No one waves. Everyone understands mornings here. You respect them by staying quiet. The man steps outside. The cold greets him immediately. Not rudely, just honestly. The frost on the ground crunches under his boots, but even that sound feels muted, like the world is trying not to wake itself up too fast. He breathes in. The air is sharp and clean. It smells like snow, wood, and distant water. It fills his lungs and reminds him that today will be like yesterday. And probably like tomorrow too. In the distance, the fjord sits still, dark water, pale sky, a thin line where they meet, no boats moving, no voices carrying, just stillness. A thin trail of smoke rises from a few longhouses now, breakfast fires being woken up. Slowly, carefully. Nobody wants to rush a fire either. Our Viking man walks a short distance from his home. He does not stretch. He does not prepare for anything dramatic. He just stands there for a moment, hands resting at his sides, looking at the same view he has seen for years. Some people might call this boring. He calls it normal. A bird flies overhead. One bird, not a group. It makes a short sound, then disappears into the pale sky. That is the most exciting thing that happens for a while. He turns back toward his longhouse. The day will continue soon enough. There will be work. Simple work. Repetitive work. The kind that does not need much thought, but not yet. Inside, he kneels near the fire and adds a small piece of wood. The flames respond politely, growing just a little. Enough to warm the space. Enough to push back the cold. He sits. He waits. This Viking man does not think about raids. He does not dream of far lands. His thoughts stay close. The fire, the warmth, the sound of the wind outside. His life is not a story people usually tell. That is exactly why we are telling it, because most Viking mornings were like this. Quiet, cold, slow, no shouting, no glory, just people waking up and doing the same things they did yesterday. The frost outside will melt later. Or maybe it won't. Either way, it does not matter much. The village will wake fully soon. Someone will stir a pot. Someone will fix a tool. Someone will walk the same path they walked yesterday, and our Viking man will be one of them. For now, he sits near the fire, letting the warmth reach his hands. The morning stretches on, unbothered by time. This is how the story begins. Not with action, not with war, but with a cold, quiet morning that feels like it might last forever. And honestly, that is kind of nice. The Viking man was not always a man. Once, a long time ago, he was just a small child lying near the fire, wrapped in wool that was a little too big for him. The longhouse felt huge back then. The roof seemed high. The shadows seemed deep. But even as a child, nothing felt scary, just quiet. He grew up inside this same wooden space. Same walls, same fire in the middle, same smoke slowly drifting upward like it had nowhere else to go. Mornings in his childhood were very similar to mornings now. Cold air, soft light, slow movement. The difference was that he did not have many thoughts yet. Mostly, he followed sounds. The crackle of fire meant warmth. The sound of footsteps meant someone was awake. The smell of food meant it was almost time to eat. He did not wake up early because he wanted to. He woke up because everyone else did. In a longhouse, sleep is a shared activity. When one person moves, everyone notices. When someone coughs, the whole room hears it. Privacy is not really a thing here. As a child, he slept close to his family. He listened to breathing, to quiet talking, to the wind outside pressing gently against the wooden walls. These sounds became normal, comforting even, There were no toys the way we think of toys, but there were small things, pieces of wood, smooth stones, a bit of rope. He learned to keep his hands busy early. Idle hands did not last long in a Viking home. During the day, he watched more than he talked. Children learned by looking, by copying. Nobody sat him down and explained life. Life just happened in front of him, slowly and repeatedly, until it made sense. He watched adults fix tools again and again, same motions, same patience. When something broke, nobody shouted. They just fixed it or tried to, or tried again tomorrow. Meals were simple. Soup, bread, sometimes fish, sometimes not. He ate what was there. He did not complain, not because he was disciplined, but because complaining did not change the bowl. He learned early that food came when it came. And waiting was part of eating. The longhouse was always busy, but never loud. Voices stayed low. Movements were steady. Even arguments, when they happened, were short and tired. No one had the energy for drama. At night, stories were sometimes told. Not exciting ones, not heroic ones, mostly reminders. Who owned what? Who was related to whom? What needed to be fixed when the weather changed? The child listened, half awake, half asleep, not really understanding, but feeling safe. Winter nights were long, very long. Darkness arrived early and stayed like an uninvited guest who refused to leave. Fires burned longer. People moved less. Children learned to be still. Our Viking child learned patience before he learned anything else. He learned that waiting was normal, that silence was normal, that doing nothing for a while was not a problem. Sometimes he went outside during the day. The village felt smaller then. A few houses, a few paths, everything familiar. He walked the same ground again and again until his feet remembered it better than his eyes. Other children were around, but not always. They did not play loudly. Games were simple, running a little, throwing something small, then stopping. Cold air makes children tired faster. When adults worked, children stayed nearby, watching, handing things over, being in the way sometimes. No one minded much. This was how learning happened. No one spoke to him about becoming a warrior. No one promised glory. Those ideas came much later from faraway stories. In this village, childhood was about surviving winter, helping when possible, and staying warm. The fire was always the center of life. He learned its moods. How it sounded when it was hungry. How it smelled when it needed help. He learned not to touch it too fast. Pain is a good teacher, but it only needs to teach once. At night, he lay back down near the fire. Wool blanket pulled up. Smoke drifting. The sounds of adults settling in. He did not think about the future. Children rarely do. Tomorrow was just another morning that would arrive quietly. Sometimes he dreamed. Not of adventure, mostly of walking, or warmth, or food. Simple dreams, really. Seasons passed, slowly, so slowly that he barely noticed. He just got a little taller, a little stronger, a little quieter. The longhouse never changed much. Repairs happened. Wood was replaced, but the feeling stayed the same. Safe, predictable, calm. This childhood, did not prepare him for excitement. It prepared him for routine. And that was exactly what life would give him. As he grew older, his hands became more useful. He carried small things, then heavier things. Nobody made a big D of it. Responsibility arrived quietly, like frost on the roof. He did not mark birthdays. Nobody counted years carefully. Time was measured by winters, by harvests, by how tired people felt. And slowly, without anyone announcing it, childhood faded. Not with a moment, not with a memory, just with repetition. The Viking man we met in the cold morning grew out of this place, out of this silence, out of this slow, steady life inside a wooden house by cold water. Nothing exciting happened. And that was the point. Because before there can be a calm adult life, there must be a calm childhood, and his was exactly that, quiet, simple, warm near the fire. And honestly, a pretty good way to grow up. As the years passed, the Viking child slowly became useful. Not important, not special, just useful. And in this village, that was more than enough. He did not wake up one morning knowing how to work. Nobody announced lessons. Nobody clapped. Work simply appeared around him, waiting to be done. And one day, someone handed him something and did not take it back. That was how learning began. At first, his jobs were very small. Carry this. Hold that. Stand there. Watch closely. He did all of it without asking why. Questions were not discouraged, but they were also not needed. The answers were usually visible. He watched older hands move. Slowly, carefully, again and again. He learned that speed was not important. What mattered was doing the same thing the same way every time. If a tool broke, it was fixed. If it could not be fixed, it was used anyway. If that did not work, it waited. This was not exciting knowledge, but it lasted. He learned to cut wood, not fast, just straight. He learned that wood does not like to be rushed. If you rush it, it fights back. If you take your time, it behaves. Sometimes he missed the mark. Sometimes the tool slipped. Nobody shouted. Someone just showed him again. Slowly, patiently, like they had all the time in the world, because in a way they did. He learned to help with fishing, not the dramatic kind. No storms, no heroic pulling, just quiet water and long waiting. Nets were checked. Lines were untangled. Most of the time, nothing happened. Waiting was part of the work. He learned that standing still could also be productive. That watching the water was not wasted time. That silence often meant things were going well. When food came from the water, it was welcomed. When it did not, nobody acted surprised. The water did not promise anything. Farming was the same, short seasons, hard ground, simple tools. The work was repetitive. Dig, plant, cover, wait, and then wait some more. The earth was not impressed by effort. It worked on its own schedule. He learned to accept that. There was no talk of fighting during these lessons. Weapons existed, yes, but they rested more than they moved. Most days. They stayed where they were, quiet and forgotten. The adults did not train him to fight. They trained him to fix, to build, to maintain, to repeat, He learned that most days were about keeping things the same, not changing them. Sometimes visitors came through the village. They told stories, Loder stories, stories with movement, with danger, with people doing things far away. The young Viking listened politely. Then he went back to work. Those stories felt distant, like weather in another land. Interesting, maybe, but not useful here. His hands grew stronger. His back grew steadier. His movements became automatic. He no longer needed instructions for small things. He could see what needed to be done before anyone said it. That was considered success. No ceremony marked this change. No words. Just trust. Someone left him alone with a task, and he finished it, sometimes poorly, sometimes well, but always quietly. He learned that mistakes were not disasters. They were part of the day. If something went wrong, you fixed it or lived with it. Then you moved on. No one stood around feeling bad about it. This way of learning shaped him more than anything else. He did not grow restless. He did not crave excitement. He grew comfortable with repetition. He learned patience not because someone taught it, but because everything required it. Winter especially. Winter work was slow work. Repairs, cleaning, preparing, sitting near the fire and fixing the same object again and again. Cold fingers made everything take longer, and nobody rushed. If something was not finished today, there was always tomorrow. Tomorrow was very reliable. He noticed that older villagers moved less but knew more. They did not hurry. They did not waste energy. Their knowledge lived in small movements and quiet decisions. He copied that. By the time he reached young adulthood, he had learned many things. None of them would make a good story, but all of them made life easier. He could repair a tool. He could prepare food. He could wait without getting bored. That last one was important. He did not dream of leaving. He did not dream much at all. His dreams stayed close to the ground. A finished task, a warm fire, a day without problems. Some might call this a small life. He called it balanced. There were days when nothing happened at all. Those were good days. Nothing breaking meant nothing needing attention. That meant rest, and rest was valued as he stood working beside others, moving in quiet rhythm. He felt something settle inside him, a steady feeling. Not happiness, not pride, just comfort. This village did not teach him how to fight the world. It taught him how to live inside it slowly, carefully, without noise. And that lesson stayed with him longer than anything else. Because when a life is built on work instead of war, it becomes very good at lasting. The days of a young Viking man did not begin with adventure. They began with waking up slightly cold. Morning arrived quietly. Light slipped into the longhouse through small gaps. Smoke from the fire still hung in the air from the night before. Someone nearby shifted in their sleep. Someone else was already awake, moving slowly, trying not to wake everyone. Our Viking man opened his eyes and stayed still for a moment. There was no reason to rush. He listened first. Wind outside. A distant animal sound. wood cracking softly in the fire. These sounds told him everything he needed to know. The day had started. Nothing was wrong. He sat up, stretched in a way that did not bother anyone, and stood. The floor was cold. It always was. He accepted this without complaint. Complaining did not make floors warmer. Breakfast was simple. Leftover food. Something warm if the fire was already going. If not, then something cold. Either way, it worked. He ate slowly. No one spoke much. Mornings were not for talking. They were for waking up properly. Once outside, the air felt sharp, clean, honest, the kind of cold that wakes you faster than any excitement ever could. Work waited, not exciting work. Familiar work. Each day had a shape, even if it was not written anywhere. He knew what to check first. Tools, animals, anything that might have changed overnight. Usually nothing had. That was good news. If something needed fixing, he fixed it. If not, he helped someone else. Carrying, holding, standing nearby in case an extra hand was needed. Standing still was also useful. Time passed without being noticed. The sun moved. Shadows changed. The day slowly unfolded like it always did. He did not count hours. He measured time by tasks. When this was done, then that. When that was done, then something else appeared. If nothing appeared, that meant the day was going well. He liked days like that. Midday came without announcement. Food appeared when it was ready. People gathered, ate, and returned to work. No speeches. No long breaks. Just enough rest to keep going. His body worked without much thought. Hands moved the same way they always had. Muscles remembered what the mind did not need to repeat. This made the work feel lighter. Sometimes he noticed younger boys watching him the way he once watched others. He did not feel important about it. He simply continued working the same way. If they learned, they learned. If not, they would later. There was no rush. Afternoons were quieter. Energy dipped. Movements slowed slightly. Nobody pushed too hard. There was no reason to. If something took longer, it took longer. The village did not judge effort by speed. As evening approached, work gradually ended. Not all at once. One person stopped, then another. Tools were put away. Fires were prepared. The day gently folded itself closed. He liked that part best. Evenings were softer. Light faded. Sounds lowered. The village relaxed without planning to. He ate again. Warm food tasted better after a day of steady movement. He ate enough. Not too much. Enough to sleep well. After eating, people sat near the fire. Some talked. Some did not. He often chose silence. Silence did not mean boredom. It meant rest. He listened to small sounds. Fire, breathing, someone shifting position. These sounds told him everything was normal. Normal was good. He thought about nothing important. No plans, no dreams, just the feeling of being tired in a good way. Outside, darkness settled over the village. Cold returned, but the fire held it back. Inside the longhouse, time slowed even more. Eventually, people lay down to sleep. One by one. No one announced it. They simply reached the point where sleep felt right. He lay down too. His body relaxed quickly. Work had taken care of that. His mind followed. Before sleep, he sometimes thought about the next day. It would look very similar. That did not bother him. It comforted him. The sameness of his days did not trap him. It supported him. Each day stacked gently on the last, building something quiet and solid. This was the daily life of a young Viking man. No raids, no battles, no dramatic choices. Just waking, working, eating, resting, and doing it again. A life that moved slowly, but never felt empty. Very calm, very steady. The Viking longhouse was never truly quiet, but it was calm. From the outside, it looked simple, long, low, built to survive cold more than to impress anyone. Smoke rose slowly from a small opening in the roof, like the house was breathing. Inside, life moved at a steady pace. Our Viking man spent many hours here, not because he was lazy, but because this was where life gathered when the weather pushed everyone inward. The longhouse was warm, but not evenly. Near the fire was comfortable. Farther away, it stayed cool. Everyone learned where to sit depending on how cold they felt that day. The fire was always doing something, heating food, drying clothes, softly crackling like it had something to say, but never saying it too loudly. Smoke stayed in the air. It was normal. Eyes adjusted. Lungs adjusted. Complaining would not change it. People shared space closely. Very closely. There were no walls to hide behind. No doors inside the house. If someone sighed, everyone heard it. Privacy existed only in small moments. A turn back, a quiet corner, a pause in conversation. And somehow, that was enough. Our Viking man learned to live with others without needing space of his own. He kept his things tidy. Not perfectly. Just enough not to bother anyone. Being tidy was considered polite. The longhouse held many rhythms. Mornings were slow, evenings slower. Midday was quieter because many people were outside working. When the weather was bad, the longhouse filled early. Wet boots, cold hands, damp clothes hung near the fire. Steam rose as warmth returned. Nobody rushed this process. Warming took time. Meals inside the longhouse were simple. Food passed from hand to hand. Bowls were shared. No one worried about perfect portions. You ate what you needed. You stopped when you were done. Talking happened, but softly. Loud voices were tiring. After a full day of work, nobody wanted more noise. Stories were told, but not all the time. Sometimes silence stayed longer. Silence was comfortable here. It did not need filling. Our Viking man often sat near the fire, doing small tasks. Fixing something. Sharpening something. Holding something that needed holding. Hand stayed busy. Busy hands made the mind rest. He listened more than he spoke. He learned a lot that way. Small details. Who liked which seat? Who needed more warmth? Who preferred quiet? These things mattered in a shared space. At night, the longhouse changed. The fire lowered its voice. Shadows grew larger. People lay down where they always did. Sleep came in waves. Someone fell asleep quickly. Someone else shifted for a long time. Someone always snored. Nobody complained. Snoring meant the day had been long. Our Viking man slept lightly but deeply. He woke sometimes. He adjusted his position. He listened. Everything sounded normal. Normal sounds made sleep easy. During storms, the longhouse felt different. Wind pushed against the walls. Rain tapped the roof. The fire worked harder. People sat closer together without thinking about it. Warmth became shared more than usual. He liked storm nights. The longhouse felt strong then, safe. Like it had done this many times before and would do it many times again. Time inside the longhouse moved slowly. You could not measure it easily. You felt it instead, the way bodies relaxed, the way conversations faded. No one rushed to sleep. No one rushed to wake. The longhouse allowed people to move at human speed. Our Viking man realized that this place shaped him as much as the work outside did. Living so close to others taught patience, taught tolerance, taught listening. If someone annoyed you, you waited. The feeling usually passed. If it did not, you still waited. That was how peace stayed. The longhouse was not perfect. It smelled. It was crowded. It was noisy at times. But it held life together. Without it, winters would feel endless. Nights would feel empty. Inside these walls, time slowed down enough for people to rest. As he lay near the fire one evening, eyes heavy, our Viking man felt grateful for this shared space. Not in a dramatic way, just quietly. The longhouse did not offer comfort like softness. It offered comfort like reliability. It was always there, always warm enough, always full of familiar sounds. And that made it easy to sleep. Very easy. The land and the sea were never in a hurry. So neither was the Viking man each morning. Each morning, he stepped outside and felt the air decide his plans. Some days smelled of soil and grass. Other days carried salt and cold water. He did not argue with these signs. He followed them. That was how work was chosen. When the land called, he worked the fields. The ground was not soft or kind, but it was familiar. He knew where stones hid under the soil. He knew which patches stayed wet longer. He moved carefully, saving his back and his energy. Dig, adjust. Dig again. The rhythm stayed slow. The land did not reward speed. It rewarded patience. Seeds needed time. Soil needed rest. Pushing harder did not change that. He learned to stop before he was too tired. Being exhausted made tomorrow harder. He preferred steady strength over short effort. When animals needed attention, he moved calmly. Animals noticed moods. If you rushed, they resisted. If you stayed calm, they followed. He liked that honesty. Feeding, cleaning, repairing fences. These tasks repeated often. Sometimes he felt like he had done the same job yesterday and the day before and the year before. He probably had, and that was fine. Some days belonged to the sea. The sea was quieter than stories made it sound. Most of the time, it sat still, breathing slowly. Boats moved gently. Water reflected the sky without excitement. Fishing was mostly waiting. Nets were checked. Lines were lowered. Hands rested. Eyes watched water that did nothing for a long time. He liked that part. Waiting on the sea felt different than waiting on land. On land, you could walk around. On water, you stayed still. The boat rocked slightly, like it was reminding you to relax. Sometimes fish came, sometimes they did not. Neither result felt personal. The sea owed nothing. When the catch was good, there was quiet satisfaction, no cheering. Just careful work, sorting, carrying, preparing. Everything done slowly so nothing was wasted. When the catch was poor, there was acceptance. Food would come from somewhere else. It always did. He trusted that. Working between land and sea gave his life balance. When his back was tired from bending, the sea let him sit. When sitting too long made him stiff, the land gave him movement. This balance kept his body steady and his mind calm. Weather decided much of his work. Rain meant shelter tasks. Wind meant land work. Cold meant slower movement. Warmth meant longer days. He never fought the weather. Fighting it made work harder. He learned to listen instead. As seasons changed, so did the work. Spring woke the land. Summer stretched the sea. Autumn stored everything carefully. Winter slowed both to a quiet rest. He moved through these changes without thinking too much about them. His body remembered what to do before his mind did. That made work feel natural. He noticed that working with nature made days predictable but not boring. Small changes kept things interesting. A new sound, a different smell, a slightly different weight in the net, just enough variety. At the end of each day, his body felt used, not damaged. That feeling mattered. It meant he could sleep well and wake again without pain. Pain made work feel endless. Comfort made it repeatable. He did not dream of conquering land or mastering the sea. He only wanted to cooperate with them. They seemed to appreciate that. As years passed, he became skilled without trying to be. He knew when to stop, when to wait, when to push a little more. Others trusted his judgment, not because he spoke loudly, but because his work spoke quietly. That was enough. When the sun lowered, work slowed naturally. Tools were put away. Boats were secured. Hands were cleaned as best they could be. Nothing rushed. Walking back toward the longhouse, he felt tired in the right way. A tiredness that settled into the bones gently, like a blanket. This was the kind of tiredness that invited sleep. Working the land and sea did not make him rich. It did not make him famous. It made him steady. And steadiness for him was everything. The land stayed. The sea stayed. And so did he, quietly living between them. Time did not rush in the Viking village. It walked, slowly, quietly, one step at a time. For our Viking man, the seasons did not arrive suddenly. They drifted in, stayed for a while, and then drifted away again, like visitors who never knocked on the door. Spring was never loud. Snow melted carefully, as if unsure whether it should leave yet. The ground stayed cold. The air smelled wet. Birds returned without making a big deal about it. Spring work began when the land allowed it, not before. He learned to wait for signs. Soft soil, longer light. A certain feeling in the air that said, you can start now? Until then, nothing was forced. Waiting felt normal. Summer stretched time in strange ways. Days felt long but unhurried. Light stayed late, like it forgot where it was supposed to go. Work filled the hours, but the pace stayed calm. There was no race against the sun. The sun was patient. He worked longer days, but not harder ones. The body adjusted. It always did. Sweat dried quickly in the breeze. Muscles learned their rhythm again. Summer did not demand excitement. It only asked for consistency. Autumn arrived quietly, almost politely. The air cooled. Colors changed slowly, one tree at a time. Food became more important. Storage became a daily thought. He felt autumn more than he saw it. The way mornings felt sharper. The way evenings arrived sooner. The way people moved with a little more care. Autumn reminded everyone to prepare, not panic. Winter took the longest to leave and the longest to arrive. It never rushed either. Cold settled in gently at first, then stayed like it had nowhere else to go. Work slowed. Days shortened. Movements became smaller. People gathered closer. Our Viking man liked winter. Winter made time feel thick, heavy, full. You could feel each day pass instead of watching it fly by. Inside the longhouse, the fire became more important. Outside, the world felt quiet and distant. Snow softened sounds. Wind spoke softly through the walls. Winter did not offer much variety, and that was comforting. As years passed, seasons stopped feeling separate. They blended together. One led into the next without clear borders. He stopped counting them. He measured time differently now, by how strong his hands felt, by how easily he slept, by how familiar each day felt. Some years were slightly harder. Some were gentler. None were dramatic. He learned that a quiet year was a good year. People around him aged slowly, just like the seasons. Faces changed a little. Movements softened. Voices lowered. Children grew. Elders rested more. Nothing surprising happened, and that made life feel safe. There were moments when he stood still and noticed how long he had been standing in the same place, in the same village, under the same sky. It did not feel like time lost. It felt like time lived properly. He noticed that rushing made time disappear faster. Staying calm made it stretch. So he stayed calm. Some evenings, he watched the sky change colors and realized he had seen this exact view many times before. It never got boring. It never needed to be new. Familiar things have their own beauty. The seasons shaped his body gently. Stronger in warm months, slower in cold ones. He accepted this change without frustration. Change did not mean loss. It meant adjustment. By now, he trusted the cycle completely. No season stayed forever. No season was skipped. That trust made worry unnecessary. If today felt cold, warmth would return. If work felt heavy, rest would come. If light faded, darkness would carry sleep. The seasons did their job without asking for attention. So did he. He lived inside time instead of chasing it. That made each day feel long enough, even when nothing special happened. Especially when nothing special happened. As another season quietly turned into the next, our Viking man continued exactly as he always had, waking, working, resting. letting time pass at its own speed, slowly, very slowly, and very peacefully. The village did not live loudly. It lived carefully. People stayed close to one another, not because they had to, but because distance created problems. Staying close made things simpler. When everyone knew everyone, small issues were handled before they grew tired or heavy. Our Viking man understood this well. In this community, conflict was rare, not because everyone agreed, but because disagreement moved slowly. No one rushed to be angry. No one raised their voice without a good reason. And good reasons were hard to find. Most days, people focused on work. Work leaves little energy for arguments. When hands are busy and bodies are tired, tempers tend to stay quiet. If someone made a mistake, it was noticed. But it was not announced. A quiet correction was enough. Someone would fix the issue or help fix it. Then life continued. No one enjoyed blaming. Our Viking man liked that about his village. Problems were treated like broken tools. You repaired them if you could. If not, you adjusted your work around them. You did not yell at a broken tool. People shared space, food, and time. Sharing taught patience. If someone annoyed you, you waited. Feelings often softened on their own. Waiting solved more problems than speaking ever could. Disagreements happen sometimes. About work, about resources, about whose turn it was to do something unpleasant. These talks were short and quiet. Voices stayed low. Words stayed simple. Nobody wanted to carry anger into the evening. Anger made sleep difficult, and sleep was important. Elders helped without taking control. They listened first, then spoke. Often, their words were few. A reminder, a suggestion, a pause. That was usually enough. Our Viking man respected the elders not because they demanded it, but because they stayed calm when others did not. Calm was convincing. Children learned from this behavior without lessons. They saw how adults handled small problems and copied them. No one taught them peace directly. They lived inside it. That made it normal. There were no punishments for being different. People were allowed to be quiet, slow, or unsure. As long as work was done and respect stayed, everything else was flexible. Flexibility reduced tension. The village did not celebrate competition. No one tried to outwork another. No one counted who did more. Work belonged to everyone. If someone struggled, help arrived without comment. Helping was not heroic. It was practical. Our Viking man often helped without thinking about it. Carrying something heavy, fixing something broken, standing nearby in case help was needed. He never expected thanks. Thanks were shown through trust. Trust mattered more than words. Meals were shared calmly. If food ran low, portions adjusted. No one panicked. Panic made things worse. This calm response to scarcity kept fear away. Fear was the real enemy. The village understood something important. Most conflicts come from rushing to speak, rushing to judge, rushing to react. So they slowed down instead. Slowness created space. Space allowed understanding. Understanding reduced conflict. Some evenings, people sat together without speaking at all. Silence did not feel awkward. It felt respectful. Everyone rested inside it. Our Viking man enjoyed those moments most. When nothing needed solving, when nothing needed explaining, just people sharing time, he noticed that living without constant conflict made days feel longer. Peace stretched time. Noise made it disappear. This village chose peace quietly every day. Not with rules, not with force, just with patience. When someone felt angry, they walked away. When someone felt wronged, they waited before speaking. When someone felt misunderstood, they tried again later. Later usually worked better. As years passed, this way of living shaped everyone. Voices softened. Movements slowed. Reactions became thoughtful. Life felt steady. The absence of conflict did not make life empty. It made it smooth, like water that flows without hitting rocks. Our Viking man fit perfectly into this rhythm. He did not stand out. He blended in. That was his strength. Blending in meant less friction. Less friction meant more peace. As night settled over the village, fires glowed softly. People moved indoors. Conversations faded. Another day passed without conflict. Another day done gently. And in that calm, sleep arrived easily. The middle years did not announce themselves. They simply arrived one day and stayed. For our Viking man, life did not suddenly change. It gently settled into a deeper routine. The village looked the same, but it felt older. Not tired, just experienced. Time had softened everything. People woke the same way they always had. Fires were lit. Work began. But movements were slower now. Not because people were weak, but because they had learned there was no need to hurry. Hurry had never helped before. Our Viking man noticed that his body felt different. Strong, but careful. He knew how far to push and when to stop. Pain was no longer ignored. It was listened to. Listening made days easier. The village itself felt settled. Paths were worn smooth. Tools had familiar marks. Buildings leaned slightly, but they had been leaning for years. Nobody worried about it. If something had not fallen yet, it probably would not today. Children still ran around, but even their noise felt softer. They learned early where not to shout and when to slow down. The village gently shaped them. No one forced it. Elders sat longer near the fire. They spoke less, but when they did, people listened. Not because they demanded attention, but because their words carried weight. Weight came from time. Our Viking man often worked near these elders. He did not need instruction anymore. A glance was enough. A nod said everything. This quiet understanding made work smooth. Middle years brought balance. Enough food. Enough warmth. Enough work. Not much more than that, but also not less. Enough was respected here. When something broke, it was fixed. When someone struggled, help came. No one kept count. Counting ruined generosity. Days passed like steady footsteps. Morning, work, food, evening, rest, repeat. Sometimes he realized that many years had passed since anything surprising happened. This thought did not worry him. It comforted him. Surprises were tiring. He liked knowing what tomorrow would look like. Predictable days made deep sleep possible. Weather still changed, but it felt familiar now. Cold was expected. Wind was known. Rain was accepted. Fighting nature had never worked. Understanding it had. The village handled hard times quietly. If food was low, meals were smaller. If winter lasted longer, fires burned lower. No panic. Just adjustment. Adjustment kept peace alive. Our Viking man noticed that people argued even less now. Middle years had taught everyone patience. There was little energy left for conflict. Silence solved most things. When disagreements happened, they ended quickly. No one wanted to carry tension into the evening. Tension made joints ache and sleep restless. Sleep mattered more than being right. As the village aged together, bonds deepened. People knew each other's habits. Who woke early? Who needed quiet? Who worked best alone? This understanding reduced friction. The middle years felt wide, even though nothing changed much. Days felt longer. Nights felt heavier and more restful. Life moved at a human pace. Our Viking man sometimes sat and watched the village without doing anything. Just watching smoke rise, just listening to wind, just noticing how familiar everything felt. Familiar did not mean boring. It meant safe. He realized that he had become part of the village itself, not separate from it, not standing out, just another steady piece holding it together. That felt right. He did not measure his life by milestones. He measured it by how calm his days felt. And most days felt calm, very calm. The middle years did not bring excitement. They brought depth, a quiet understanding that life did not need to be loud to be full. As night came, the village slowed. Fires glowed. Voices lowered. Movement softened. Another ordinary day ended. Another good day. The middle years continued, unremarkable and strong, like the village itself. And in that steady rhythm, sleep came easily. Deep, quiet, untroubled. Aging did not arrive suddenly. It arrived quietly, like colder mornings and longer pauses. Our Viking man did not wake up one day feeling old. He simply noticed small things. Standing up took a moment longer. Hands felt stiff before warming up. He listened to his body more carefully now, and his body appreciated that. In the Nordic village, aging was not hidden. It was not rushed either. People grew older in plain sight, slowly, the same way the village itself aged. No one pretended to stay young. Morning routines changed slightly. He still woke early, but he did not jump up right away. He sat first, breathed, let his joints remember what they were supposed to do. There was no shame in this. The village understood aging as adjustment, not loss. Work was still part of his day, but it looked different now. He chose lighter tasks: repair work, sorting, watching, giving quiet advice when needed. No one questioned this change. Strength had many forms. Speed was only one of them. Younger villagers often worked nearby. They did not push him aside. They included him naturally. When something needed it experienced more than strength, they looked his way. He gave help without long explanations. A small correction, A calm suggestion. Then silence. Silence carried wisdom better than long speeches. His movements were slower but smoother. No wasted steps. No rushed effort. He conserved energy without thinking about it. Years of routine had taught him exactly how much effort was enough. The village itself moved more gently now. Many elders sat near the fire longer. Conversations grew shorter. Laughter stayed soft. This was not sadness. It was comfort. He noticed that nights felt deeper. Sleep came earlier. Dreams were quieter. He woke less often, but when he did, he rested before sleeping again. Rest had become important. Cold affected him more now. He chose warmer places. Closer to the fire, sheltered from wind. Nobody minded shifting to make space. Making space was normal. Meals stayed simple. He ate less, but enjoyed it more. Each bite felt earned. No rush. No hunger panic. Food tasted better when eaten slowly. He spent more time watching than doing. Watching smoke rise. Watching snow fall. Watching children grow without realizing it. Watching filled time in a gentle way. He realized that aging allowed him to notice things he once missed. Small sounds. Tiny changes in light. The exact moment evening turned into night. These details made days feel full. The village respected aging without celebrating it. No ceremonies. No announcements. Just quiet support. If he needed help, it came. If he did not, he was left in peace. Peace was valued here. He felt no fear about growing older. Everyone around him was doing the same thing. Aging together felt safer than aging alone. No one rushed toward the end. No one avoided it either. Life continued at the same steady pace. Sometimes he remembered his younger self. Stronger, faster, more restless. He did not miss that feeling. It had served its purpose. Now, calm served him better. The land and sea still existed, but he visited them less. He trusted others to handle those tasks. Trust replaced effort. That was another form of strength. On quiet afternoons, he sat outside the longhouse, wrapped in warmth, listening to wind move through the village. He did not feel useless. He felt complete. Aging here did not mean stepping away from life. It meant standing inside it more gently. As night fell, fires glowed softer. Voices lowered earlier. The village rested longer. Another day passed, not exciting, not difficult, just peaceful. And for our Viking man, that was more than enough. Aging in a Nordic village was not about slowing down. It was about settling into time, settling into quiet, settling into rest. And in that calm settling, sleep came easily, deep and undisturbed. Old age did not feel heavy to him. It felt light. By now, our Viking man had stopped counting years. Numbers no longer mattered. Days mattered. And even those passed gently, without effort. He woke up when his body told him to. Sometimes early. Sometimes a little later. There was no schedule waiting to catch him. That freedom felt peaceful. Mornings were slow. He sat before standing. He listened before moving. The world no longer needed quick responses from him. And that was fine. He spent more time near the fire now. Warmth was important. Cold still existed, but he avoided it when he could. Nobody expected him to stand outside longer than needed. The village understood. His workdays were mostly finished. He still helped, but in small ways, holding tools, watching processes, offering a quiet word when something looked wrong. Often, nothing needed saying. Silence did the job. Younger villagers passed by and nodded. Some stopped to sit near him for a moment, not to ask questions, just to share quiet. Quiet shared between people feels different than quiet alone. It feels warmer. He did not tell stories often. When he did, they were short. About weather, about tools, about how things used to be slightly different, but mostly the same. Nobody expected excitement from him. They expected calm. He noticed that time felt wider now. A single afternoon could feel very long, not boring, just open, empty in a comfortable way. He filled that time by watching. Smoke rising straight up when the air was still. Snow falling without sound. Light moving slowly across the floor. These things felt important now. His body rested more. He slept often, but lightly. Small naps came easily. Waking up did not confuse him. He always knew where he was. Familiar places make waking gentle. Food stayed simple. Warm soups, soft bread, small portions. He ate slowly and stopped when his body said enough. There was no need for more. The longhouse felt quieter to him now. Even when others were talking, noise softened with age. It lost its sharp edges. He liked that. He did not feel lonely. The village was always around him. Even when he sat alone, he felt included. Sounds carried. Footsteps passed. Life continued nearby. That closeness mattered. Cold winters came and went. He noticed them, but they did not bother him much. He stayed inside more. Others brought what he needed without being asked. Care here was quiet. It did not embarrass anyone. He accepted help easily. Fighting it would only make things harder. Some days, he did nothing at all. Nothing useful, nothing productive. He simply existed. Those days were good days. Existence alone felt enough now. He thought less about the future. Planning had become unnecessary. Tomorrow would arrive whether he prepared or not. Thinking less made the mind calm. He remembered many seasons, but not in detail. They blended together into a soft memory, like looking at a landscape from far away. Details fade, feelings stay, and the feeling was peaceful. At night, he lay down earlier. Sleep came easily. Dreams were light and slow. Sometimes there were no dreams at all, just rest. The village moved around him gently, like water around a stone. He did not need to move much anymore. He had done enough moving already. Old age here was not about waiting for an ending. It was about resting inside the present. Every breath felt complete. Every moment felt quiet. As fires dimmed in the evening and voices lowered, he felt settled. Not finished, just settled. A very quiet old age. No fear, no regret, no rush, only calm days stacked gently together. And when sleep came, it was deep, soft, and kind. Exactly the way life had been. The end did not arrive loudly. It arrived the same way everything else had, quietly. By this time, Our Viking man no longer thought of life as something that moved forward. It felt more like something that rested. Days did not stretch ahead. They simply appeared one by one, gentle and familiar. He woke less often now, and when he did, he stayed still for longer, listening, breathing, feeling warmth nearby. Nothing felt urgent. The longhouse sounds were the same as always. Fire breathing softly, footsteps moving carefully, voices low and respectful. Life continued around him without disturbance, and that was comforting. People came and went. Some sat nearby. Some just passed through. No one forced conversation. Presence was enough. He did not feel forgotten. He felt surrounded. His thoughts moved slowly. Memories did not arrive in order. They came like soft waves. A season, a field, a sound of wind. A quiet evening long ago. No single moment stood out. His life felt whole because it had been even. There were no great victories to hold on to. No great losses to regret. Just many ordinary days placed carefully together. And that felt complete. The village treated this time gently. No announcements. No heavy emotions. Just warmth, patience, and quiet care. Care here was never loud. Food was brought when needed. Blankets adjusted without comment. Someone always nearby, but never too close. Respect lived in distance as much as closeness. He rested more than he slept. Breathing stayed slow, calm, untroubled. His body knew what to do without instruction. The world felt softer now. Light dimmed earlier. Sounds faded quicker. Even cold felt distant. There was no fear in this, only stillness. Outside, the village continued its slow rhythm. Work happened. Fires burned. Seasons waited their turn. Nothing stopped and nothing needed to. This ordinary life did not leave behind great stories. No songs. No carvings. No legends. But it left something quieter. Stability. Memory. A way of living that proved calm could last. People would remember him without speaking much about him. They would remember how he worked, how he waited, how he stayed. That was enough. As time moved on, his presence blended back into the longhouse, into the village, into the land itself, not disappearing, just settling. The end of his life did not feel like an ending. It felt like a long day finally resting. The fire still burned. The wind still moved. The village still breathed. And somewhere inside all of that quiet, an ordinary Viking life came gently to a close. No noise. No struggle. No rush. Just calm, very calm. The kind of calm that makes sleep come easily. And stay. Nothing stopped. That was the first thing everyone noticed. Morning still arrived. Cold air still moved through the village. Smoke still rose slowly from the longhouses, as if it always had and always would. Life did not pause to think. It continued. The place where the old Viking man used to sit felt empty at first. Not painfully empty. Just different. People noticed it quietly, then went on with their day. That was how things were done here. Someone fixed a tool that morning. Someone fed the animals. Someone carried water. Work did not change its schedule. And somehow that felt right. The village did not speak much about what had ended. There was no need. Everyone understood. Endings were part of the rhythm, just like beginnings. Talking too much about it would only disturb the calm. Younger villagers took over small tasks naturally. No one announced the change. They simply did what needed doing. Hands replaced hands. Steps followed steps. Life adjusted. The longhouse felt slightly quieter for a while. Not empty, just softer. Sounds seemed to travel differently. Fires crackled the same way, but people listened more closely. Quiet has a way of expanding. Children still moved through the space, unaware of any difference. They laughed softly. They asked small questions. They sat where they always had. This helped everyone else relax. The land and sea did not notice any change. Fields still waited. Water still moved gently. Weather arrived on time. Nature never paused. Work continued in its familiar rhythm. Slow mornings. Steady days. Gentle evenings. Nothing rushed forward. The village liked it that way. People remembered the old Viking man in small moments. When a tool was used the way he used it. When someone waited instead of rushing. When silence solved something better than words. These memories did not hurt. They felt warm. No one carved his name anywhere. No one needed to. His way of living had already settled into the village. It lived on in habits, not stories. Habits last longer. Elders sat where they always had. A younger one sat nearby now, without being told to. The circle stayed unbroken. Time folded gently forward. Seasons changed again. Snow came. Snow left. Light returned slowly. Work followed the weather, just like always. No season felt wrong. Life felt balanced. People learned that calm could survive loss. That routine could carry everyone through quiet changes without shaking. This knowledge mattered. The village did not grow louder to fill space. It did not rush to replace anything. It simply continued being what it was, steady, slow, peaceful. Some evenings, someone would pause near the fire and sit a little longer, not thinking of anything specific, just resting. That pause felt familiar. It felt inherited. Children grew older without realizing it. They learned work without lessons. They learned patience without speeches. The village shaped them quietly. And life went on. Days stacked gently on one another. Not exciting days, comfortable ones. Days that did not demand attention. These were the best kind. Night after night, fires dimmed, voices softened. Sleep arrived easily. People rested without worry. Worry had no place here. The end of one ordinary life did not weaken the village. It strengthened it. It reminded everyone that calm living could last beyond a single person. That calm was something you passed forward. Life did not move in circles or lines. It flowed like water around stones, shaping everything without force. The village trusted this flow. And so, as another quiet day ended and another began just like it, life continued exactly as it should. No rush, no noise, no need for change, just time moving forward at a human pace. Life goes on slowly, peacefully, and perfectly suited for sleep. As everything settles, there is not much left to explain. The village rests. The land rests. The story rests. Nothing is asking for attention anymore. When you look back at this life, there is no single moment to point at and say, this was the most important part. And that is exactly what makes it peaceful. This Viking man did not change the world. He did not try to. He lived inside it. He followed mornings as they came. He worked when work was needed. He rested when the day grew quiet. He did not rush past time, and he did not chase after it either. Time walked beside him. That is something we forget sometimes. We think life must be filled with noise to be meaningful. But here, meaning came from repetition, from calm effort, from showing up again and again. Plow the field, fix the net, sit by the fire, sleep. These simple acts built a full life. There were no great speeches in his days, no moments that demanded applause. Yet the village stood strong because of people like him. Ordinary people hold the world together. They do it quietly. When we slow down and look at this life, it feels almost unreal in its calm. No endless choices, no rushing clocks, no pressure to be more than what the day required. Just enough work, enough rest, enough warmth. And that was always sufficient. This Viking man understood something important without ever saying it out loud. A calm life does not need explanation. It only needs patience. He did not fear slow days. He welcomed them. He trusted routine. He trusted seasons. He trusted that tomorrow would look mostly like today, and it usually did. As this story closes, there is no lesson written in stone. Only a gentle reminder floating in the quiet air. Life does not need to be loud to be complete. You do not need battles to be brave. You do not need fame to be remembered. You do not need speed to move forward. Sometimes, the strongest thing you can do is live slowly and fully one ordinary day at a time. The fire grows lower now. The wind outside softens. The village fades into shadow. Nothing feels unfinished. And as the story ends, it does not pull you awake. It lets you drift. It lets your thoughts slow down, just like his life once did. Breathing becomes steady. The mind loosens its grip. The day finally rests. This was not a story of war, not a story of heroes. It was a story of calm, and calm is often the best ending. Now there is nothing left to do, nothing left to listen for, nothing left to hold, only sleep. Very quiet, very slow, very peaceful. Now there is nothing new to arrive, no more chapters to open, no more days to explain, only quiet. This is the part where the story stops moving and simply rests, like a fire that no longer needs more wood, like a village at night when everyone is asleep and even the wind seems tired. You do not need to imagine anything clearly anymore. Just let the picture blur. The Viking village fades into darkness. Longhouses rest under the cold sky. Fields are still. The water by the shore moves slowly, almost silently. Everything is exactly where it should be. Breathing becomes easier here. Slower, deeper. There is no reason to hold on to thoughts. They can drift away one by one. If a memory appears, let it pass. If a thought comes in, let it soften. Nothing needs attention. This story was never meant to wake you. It was meant to guide you gently to this moment, a place where effort ends and rest begins. Imagine the fire one last time, low and steady, not bright, not loud, just warm enough to exist. That warmth spreads from the fire to the room, to the body, to the breath. Every part of you knows it is safe to relax now. The village does not expect anything from you. The story does not ask you to remember it. Time does not hurry you forward. You are allowed to rest here. The sounds grow quieter. Even silence feels soft, not empty, like a blanket placed carefully over the night. If your eyes are still open, they will feel heavy soon. If they are already closed, the darkness will feel deeper, calmer. Sleep does not rush in. It arrives politely, like a guest who knows you are ready. The mind loosens its grip on the day. Muscles stop holding. The body settles into stillness, the way land settles after snowfall. Everything slows down. There is nothing left to solve, nothing left to plan, nothing left to replay. Only rest. This is where the story leaves you. Not with an ending, but with quiet space. Space to drift, space to sink, space to sleep. Let the last image fade completely now. No village, no fire, no sound, just darkness and calm. Breathing in, breathing out slow. Easy, natural. You do not need to listen anymore. You do not need to follow words. Sleep can take over from here, and it will, very gently, very slowly. Good night.